Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And I am so looking forward to today because we're really going to talk about how do you make sure that your business is taken care of and that life's little bumps and hiccups and all of those things don't destroy your business. And how do we set a business up correctly at the very start? That is one of the most important things. And so please join me in welcoming Lee Phillips to our program today. Welcome, Lee. How are you doing?
I'm great, Deb. How are you?
I am hunky-dory, hunky-dory. Let me tell people a little bit about you, and then we will jump in.
Okay.
So Attorney Lee Phillips will teach you how to reposition yourself in the law so that you can go out and make more money than you ever thought possible. In today's lawsuit-happy society, making it isn't enough. You also have to know how to protect your wealth, or someone will take it away from you. Lee is a counselor to the Supreme Court of the United States and an engaging speaker. He's going to walk us through how to make it and how to keep it using the tools of wealth. So again, Lee, welcome.
Well, thank you. It's great to be with you.
I love it. Well, I always love finding out how it is that my guests got to where they are today. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I'm not supposed to be a tax type or an asset protection type attorney. I'm actually supposed to be a patent attorney. I have a massive science background and actually was director of research for one of the largest private universities in the United States.
Wow.
But at age 27, I showed up with terminal cancer. I was given 2 to 3 weeks to live. And we had 3 little children and been married years. Yes, I got married very early. And that changed my life because I spent 6 months in intensive care and 3 years without working. And we lost everything. No fault of our own. We didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
But it happens. And I said, this ain't going to happen to me again. So I started to study asset protection, and that was originally the lawsuit. But as I've gone along, I've matured and figured out that the lawsuit is actually just a tiny portion of your asset protection problems.
Right.
56% of all bankruptcies in the United States are a result of somebody in the family simply getting sick. So the question is, are you going to lose your business? Are you going to lose your real estate investments? All of that sort of stuff when somebody in the family gets sick.
Right.
And the answer for most people is yeah. So what can you do to protect against that? And I've matured even further. Your biggest asset protection threat is
your business.
The IRS.
They're
taking 20, 30, 40% of everything you bring in the door. Isn't that an asset loss? Yeah. And since Biden's beefed up the IRS, we now have, we're going to have 87,000 new agents. They've got actually 30,000 hired this year. So we've gone from 85,000. We're adding another 87,000. We're doubling the size of the IRS. And he's put an extra 80 billion into the IRS budget. The IRS budget used to be 12 billion a year. They've said we're going to get an additional $1 trillion through audits. The chance of audit today is less than 1%. They want to raise it to 10%.
Yikes.
So, I mean, when you get audited, that's time, money problem. How you structure your business makes a huge difference as to how likely you are to be audited. So those are the types of things I think about these days. I know that's sick.
You're fun at a party.
I'm a lawyer. I'm sorry. I repent. My grandson actually went to school this fall, and the teacher said, well, what does your grandpa do? And my grandson said, well, he's a lawyer. And the teacher said, honest? Grandson said, no, he's just a regular one.
Cute. Cute. I love it. I love it.
But the asset protection is an issue, and it should be an issue for everybody. And that extends into estate planning.
Right.
Because 95% of the businesses are lost when the founder, the owner dies.
Right.
So how do you protect the business from the death of the owner? And I assume you're the owner and you want it to transfer onto your kids or your heirs. How are you going to do that?
Right.
That's part of the asset protection puzzle. And the problem is you've got the estate planning lawyer and the business structuring lawyer and the tax accountant, and they don't bring it all together. But it's really all one problem. The estate planning attorney really doesn't think, how do I deal with the business?
Right, because that's not their role.
And the business structuring attorney doesn't think, how do I play estate planning?
Right.
And none of them play the tax game. Even the accountants don't play the tax game.
Right.
In fact, I'm going to tell you that if you are blindly relying on your accountant and your attorney and everybody to do things for you, it ain't going to work.
Right.
Your accountant, for example, he isn't going to counsel you in tax planning. I will guarantee it.
Right. Because that's not their job.
Well, you'd think it was supposed to be their job. But the problem is, if they take your numbers, they stick them in the computer and they spit out your taxes, there's zero liability in that.
Right.
But as soon as they start to counsel you, tell you to do this, this, and this, and that, if anything goes wrong, they're liable.
Right. Like we said, this lawsuit happy economy.
They've learned to keep their mouth shut. And even the lawyers keep their mouth shut.
Right. They do just what their little box is.
So you've got to learn how to run your LLC. They're not going to tell you how. You've got to learn how to plan your taxes. Now, you don't have to be an accountant and you don't have to be an attorney, but you have to know enough to direct these guys.
Right.
If you blindly walk in off the street and say, hi, here I am, Mr. Lawyer, set me up, what's he going to do?
The basics.
Oh, he's going to set you up. That's what you just ask him to do. And they're going to basically give you the setup. When I actually had to start practicing law, I was appalled because the first thing I did was wills and trusts, and I've been very good at that. And I'm quite nationally known as a trust attorney. But I was infuriated because I figured out that the lawyers were actually setting the clients up for failure. That way they could get the big fee for setting up the trust. And then when the client died, the family had to come back to them for the probate and everything else.
Right.
And teach them how to use the trust. You get your LLC, you get your corporation, you get your trust. You put it in the file cabinet.
Oh yeah, somewhere.
No, these are things you have to use. And I talk about hats. You know, you have an individual hat. When you get married, you take that hat off and you put on a joint tenant hat. We become joint tenants and everything. You're going to have to take off the joint tenant hat now. Well, you've still got these two hats.
Right. You don't throw them away.
Don't wear them all the time. You have another hat. It's called a trustee hat. Have another hat. It's called the LLC manager hat. And so you've got to understand which hat you're wearing, and you've got to understand that you have to play these different roles. And somebody's got to teach you how to play these different roles. So that's what I've done during my life is teach people how to operate the trust, how to operate the LLC, how to work with it so that you can get the asset protection you want. The fact of the matter is the vast majority of LLCs and corporations, they don't protect you when you get sued.
Right.
Because you didn't do what was required. This whole asset protection concept, where did we get it? Well, basically, we got it from the government. They created the LLC. They created a corporation. You've got this corporate shield, protects me from what happens out in the company. But does the government really want to protect you? Because if you've got your delivery van, you hit the kid in the crosswalk. If you're not responsible for that kid that's now paralyzed, who's going to pay for it?
Who is?
The taxpayer. So the government really wants you to be liable for that accident.
Right.
But wait a minute. They gave us the corporate shield and everything else. Why? Well, it's the carrot. Come on, start your little business. We'll protect you. And when push comes to shove, they're not going to protect you.
Right.
So what they've done is they put all these hurdles in your way. Yeah, we'll protect you if you do this, if you do this, if you do this. And the lawyer, Legal Zoom, whoever it is, gives you your pieces of paper. You put them in the file cabinet, and then you don't do this.
And we never think about it again.
Yeah. So it doesn't work. And that's the setup. And the same with your trust. When you're doing the estate planning, the vast majority of trusts fail because nobody ever teaches you how to use them.
Right.
So that's kind of what I've been doing over my life, Deb.
I love it. So let's talk business.
Okay.
You know, as you said, there's LLCs, there's corporations, there's S corps, there's, I don't know, you know, all sorts of different things. And, you know, one of the things that I talk about a lot on the program is when you're setting up your business, you need to do it the right way. Don't just start taking checks into your personal checking account and, you know, all of these various things. There are steps you need to take. And, you know, and so, but for many people, and I'm sure there's a statistic somewhere, they do the LLC, you know, because it's pretty simple. You know, I remember when I got my LLC for Wise Women Communications is about 22 years ago. So before Al Gore had invented the internet. So I had to trot my little self down to the Colorado Secretary of State's office. And I filled out a piece of paper because I was a woman-owned LLC. So, you know, no other stakeholders or anything like that. It was like one piece of paper. I wrote them a check for, I don't know, $30, something like that. This was not an awful lot. And they literally gave me back the tape from the cash register that, you know, and to show that I had paid. I mean, and so that's what I got. I mean, I was expecting bells and whistles and big bands and all of those things. And I got this little 2 by 3 inch piece of paper. And then every year, of course, I have to renew. And, you know, luckily we now have the internet. So I don't have to trot anywhere. I can just, you know, put it down.
Paper with a foil seal thing on it.
I know. I mean, it was, I'm just like, really, this is all I get. And now, you know, I could print something up off of the Secretary of State's website, but it's like, whatever. But, you know, and then did I think about it again? No, not really.
Well, I teach people how to go in and do their own LLC in every state. It's a piece of cake, Deb.
Right.
On the state website.
Yeah, I was surprised at how easy it was, even 30 years ago.
Fill out name, address, and phone number, basically.
Yeah.
And they ask you a couple of questions, and I teach what the questions are and, you know, how you want to answer them. And then you pay it's more than $30, by the way.
I know.
You pay
inflation.
your $150 or whatever it is these days. If you're in California, it's $850.
Yikes. It's a lot here in Georgia, too. So I'm still incorporating Colorado.
Well, you know, do you need to now register in Georgia?
I have checked, and the person I checked with said no. You know, and I did check with a business attorney. But you know, so don't tell.
If doing business in the state, and even though you're in Colorado or Wyoming or wherever it is, you've got to register in the other state.
Right.
And that's just as expensive as setting up a new LLC in that state.
Because they want their taxes.
Set up when you register
Mm-hmm.
that LLC in that state,
Mm-hmm.
by definition, you become subject to all of the laws.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Mm-hmm. And one of the big arguments is, oh, you need your LLC in Wyoming or Nevada.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they don't have a lot of laws. Mm-hmm.
Wherever.
Mm-hmm.
You don't. Can we use the word BS on?
Just BS. We can't say the second word.
It's all BS, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've got to register in the state where you're doing business.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Deb's not doing business, maybe, because all she's doing is this cyberspace stuff.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And she can do it from anywhere.
Mm-hmm. And I don't want to register in 50 states.
You don't want to register in 50 states, but you're not doing business in 50
Mm-hmm.
states. The guy's listening to you in Alabama,
mm-hmm.
but that doesn't mean you're doing business
right
there. So you're probably okay staying in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
But if I buy a piece of real estate in Georgia,
mm-hmm.
my company,
mm-hmm.
I've got to register that.
Right. Yeah. You now have a physical presence.
I now have a business presence
mm-hmm.
in that state.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this whole question of, where do I form my LLC or my
mm-hmm.
corporation?
Mm-hmm.
Answer's really easy. I'll just cut through it. Okay. The state where you're doing business
mm-hmm.
or the state where you own property. End
mm-hmm.
of discussion.
Mm-hmm. Right. Don't try and get around it by registering or having someone else register you, right? That's been one of the tricks is, well, somebody else will be my agent and they'll register it in another state.
Agent registers under their name,
mm-hmm.
your company in Wyoming.
Right.
And you're now anonymous.
Uh-huh.
Let me just tell you, if you think you're anonymous, you got another thing coming.
Especially from the IRS.
I can tell you what brand of underwear you're wearing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I had a guy, and years ago, I was doing asset protection for
mm-hmm.
him. And he kept saying, oh, we can't do that. I'm off the grid.
mm-hmm.
And finally I said, give me an address. I
mm-hmm.
don't care if it's in a land trust.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if it's in an LLC.
Right.
Give me an address.
Mm-hmm.
Does your tenant know the address of where they're living?
Mm-hmm.
Give me an address. Mm-hmm. I took that address, and I'll admit I had to pay.
Mm-hmm.
And lawyers have access to databases that mm-hmm. other people don't. But I came back with a 40-page printout.
Mm-hmm.
I had every bank account this guy had ever had. I had every mm-hmm. property he'd ever touched. Mm-hmm. I had every insurance policy he'd ever mm-hmm. had. I had every wife he'd ever mm-hmm. had. I had everything on him.
Mm-hmm.
I faxed it off to him, didn't hear back from him.
Yeah, because he was like, uh-oh.
3 or 4 days later, the guy calls me up and he says, well, anonymity doesn't work. Mm-hmm. Now what do we do?
Yeah, yeah.
So if your asset protection plan is anonymity, the answer is no.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people think when they are doing business, but have not taken the legal steps to start that business. Say you have a handyman come and we've had this happen where we've had, whoever come to the house and do whatever project. And I've called, ABC company. But when it comes time to pay, they say, oh, please make it out to Joe Smith. Which means, I'm like, no, I hired ABC company. That's who I am paying. Because for all I know, these people aren't even affiliated with that company and they're going to take the money. But yeah, they're saying, well, because they're thinking they're not going to have to pay taxes on it. Or all the things. I mean, look how many times where, we've paid cash, whether, we all hear about, paying your temporary employees cash or all those things. That'll catch up to you at some point.
Yeah, it always does.
Mm-hmm.
But let's get into the LLCs and stuff a little
right.
more. Mm-hmm. Put my cough drop back in. Let me start with a concept that mm-hmm. people can't wrap their head around a lot.
Okay.
You have an LLC and you have a corporation.
Mm-hmm.
Those are legal structures.
Yes.
A corporation is a corporation is a corporation.
Mm-hmm.
The same legal document.
Mm-hmm.
Same process. It doesn't matter whether it's taxed under Chapter C of the IRS. Call that a C corporation.
Right.
Whether it's taxed under subchapter S of the IRS.
The S Corp.
Or it's a nonprofit. The company, the legal structure is the same.
Right.
The LLC is an LLC is an LLC. Is it taxed under subchapter S?
No.
Is it taxed under chapter C?
No.
Taxed as a partnership?
No.
Now, wait a minute.
Oh, wait a minute. It could be.
Wait a minute. You get to choose how the LLC is taxed. You get to choose how the corporation's taxed, but you've got a lot more choices with the LLC because you could have it taxed as a partnership.
Okay.
Or you could have it taxed as a sole proprietorship. We call that a disregarded entity. The IRS, everybody disregards the LLC. Actually, the IRS always disregards the LLC in that respect. The IRS doesn't know whether you have a corporation or an LLC, and they don't care.
Right. They just want their money.
Is that you have an entity taxed under subchapter S of the IRS code. So the concept is there's a legal structure and then there's a tax structure and they're separate. They have nothing to do with each other. And people can't quite grasp that concept.
Right. So
I'm going to cut through the chase again. And I'm going to tell you, in today's market, you're going to have an LLC, end of discussion. I mean, 1 out of 100 people, I might say, okay, do a corporation. You're going to have an LLC. If you have a corporation, you need to change it tomorrow to an LLC.
Now, see, I always thought that it was pertaining to size. So if you're big, you're a corporation. If you're little, you're an LLC.
No. Hundreds of thousands of little companies were set up as corporations.
Right.
I have a good friend. His wife happens to be one of the best business structures in the state, structuring attorneys state. Years ago, she sets him up as a corporation. My friend also invests in real estate. He has a piece of real estate that goes bad. He's trying to help somebody. He actually bought the drive-in theater at the south end of town. And basically, a homeless couple comes to him and says, would you help us out? Will you let us live in the guard shack?
Right.
Third
Seems
party.
Simple.
Writes up a lease, everything. They move in. The state comes along and says, no. Can't have people live in guard shack.
Right.
Get Third party management company gives them an eviction notice. They keep living there. They're literally smoking meth in bed and they burn the place down.
Yikes.
She gets killed. And they're now suing my friend. My friend has a 50 employee type company, not big, but it's good business.
Right.
His sons are buying him out. That's his retirement. And her family is suing him.
Right. Because they didn't do something right. Either they shouldn't have let him live there or they didn't fireproof it or whatever.
Wait a minute, Deb. This has nothing to do with his business.
Right.
He
was just a nice guy.
This is his real estate investment. They're going to take his business away.
Right.
Why?
Because the business owned the property?
No.
Doesn't
matter how he owned the property. Doesn't matter if it was in his name. Doesn't matter if it was an LLC, land trust. Doesn't matter how he owned the property. They're suing him personally. And the state has said he's personally liable. They're going to get his company. When they sue him, one of his assets is the stock in his corporation. They're going to get the stock in the corporation. As soon as they have his stock in the corporation, he's still got 85% of the stock in his company. the company is gone.
Right. Because that family now has 85% of the company.
Right. They do whatever they want with it.
Okay.
Now, wait a minute. They made a mistake. The mistake was, if that had been an LLC, they couldn't sue him and take the company away.
Why? I mean, I know LLC is limited liability, but
limited liability is the corporate shield.
Okay.
You can't sue me. I got my corporate shield.
Right.
That's limited liability. Now, the LLC was created in 1977 in Wyoming. And what they did is they took a corporation and they took a partnership. You say, oh, a partnership. Don't want a partnership. They married a corporation and a partnership. The LLC got the DNA from the daddy corporation. Okay. Same corporate shield. Can't sue. I got my corporate shield. Now, as a little aside here, the corporate shield only protects you if you've done this. Right.
You can't have just done the starting thing.
Filing the papers first. But you've got to operate this thing all your life, and nobody teaches you how to operate it.
Right. Because you're doing whatever your business does.
Right. So what did they get from the partnership? Why use a partnership? I've got to give you a history lesson. 400 years ago in England, the only type of business structure there was a partnership. So Deb, me and you and Joe, we're going to go into business together. We're going to spend 30 years. We're going to create a beautiful business. Joe gets in trouble. And I don't quite know how you got in trouble 400 years ago in England. You hit somebody with your
He did. He ran over him with his ox.
And you didn't pay the king or
right.
Got divorced. Joe gets in trouble. Joe gets sued. The creditor, the guy suing Joe, gets everything, including Joe's partnership interest.
So the third. Assuming they set it up as a third. We'll just make it easy and say third.
Yeah, but the definition of a partnership is any partner, even if he only has 1%,
right,
can come in. They can sell the partnership. They can do whatever they want with the partnership. They don't need Lee and Deb to approve anything. So Deb and I, we just lost 30 years worth of work.
We did.
Do anything wrong? That's
there goes our ox.
Not fair. Joe did it. And the Brits said, yeah, that's not fair.
That doesn't seem right.
So they passed a law, which said when Joe's creditor gets a judgment against him, takes everything, they can't just come and take his partnership interest anymore.
Okay.
The creditor has to go back to court, and they have to ask the court for an order which charges Joe's debt against our partnership. That means the creditor can't come in. They can't tell me and Deb what to do. They can't sell our partnership. They can't manage it. They can't do nothing. But if the partnership declares a profit, Joe's creditor gets it. Joe doesn't get it anymore.
Okay.
So they can't come and take Joe's partnership interest.
Right.
They get what's called an economic lien against our partnership.
So if we didn't make money, they don't get anything.
Well, if we don't declare a profit.
Right.
They don't.
Yeah, we might make money, but we might not make a profit.
I'll tell you what, Deb, we'll figure out a way that we can eat that money.
Yeah. Oh, we're gonna buy new oxen.
Whatever. So we kept our partnership. That protected the company from what happened to one of the partners, the owners of the company.
Right.
Now, there is nothing that protects the corporation from what happens to the owner of the corporation. Now, IBM really doesn't care.
Right.
if you get sued and you lose your stock in IBM.
Because it's so small, it's not going to make a difference.
Your company, and you own 60, 50, 100% of this company, if you lose your stock, that's a big deal.
Right.
You lose the company.
So that's why your friend with the drive-in theater should have been an LLC, because they couldn't go after.
So the LLC got the partnership DNA, and it has, in addition to the corporate shield, it has this charging order concept. And you didn't hear about LLCs until the mid 2000s, 2006.
Right.
The big Uniform LLC Act was in 2006.
Oh, okay.
Attorneys get together and they create an act. And then the states adopt this as the rule for how we're going to govern this thing. And we've got 180 uniform acts now, some odd. Uniform LLC, corporation, trust, bankruptcy, divorce. So we've got all these uniform acts. And until the attorneys got the go-ahead, you didn't hear about LLCs.
Right.
And we didn't know how we were going to tax an LLC. The first question that came up in 1977 is, okay, Mr. IRS, how are you going to tax an LLC? Takes the IRS 20 years to do it.
Yeah, because they're the government.
In 1997, the IRS came back and said, we don't care how you tax your LLC. You choose. You can have it taxed any way you want.
Wow.
As a sole proprietor, Chapter C, Subchapter S, partnership, how do you want it taxed? We don't care. So we didn't have a grasp on LLCs. So we figured out how it was going to be taxed. Then we got the Uniform LLC Act. And the Uniform LLC Act said the only remedy of a creditor, Joe's guy, the only remedy of Joe's creditor is a charging order. So what does the LLC do? It protects you with the corporate shield, just like the corporation. But it protects the assets of the company.
Right.
From what happens to the owners of the
company.
So
it's a double wall, kind of.
It's a double wall.
I got it.
That's the only entity that has the double wall.
Okay.
So you get rid of your corporation and you form an LLC. File a piece of paper with the state. Every state has one. Go to the state's website and it will say, we're going to convert a corporation to an LLC. You don't have to get a new tax ID number.
Right.
Remember that
the government the IRS didn't care.
LLC. So you're still going to have it taxed under Subchapter S.
Right.
You keep the same EIN. I mean, this is a piece of cake, guys. But this is important.
Right.
Because I've seen a lot more people lose their businesses because of something that happened to them. The family member got sick.
Right. Yeah. And somebody sued to get their bills paid, and, whether it's the hospital, the doctor, the whoever.
Yeah. But I've seen a lot more people lose the business than I have people lose their house because something went wrong in the business. Now, you said you're in Colorado.
I was. I'm in Georgia now.
But your LLC's in Colorado.
Yes.
Colorado was actually the first case. It was a guy named Allred. Mr. Allred declares bankruptcy as an LLC over here. Charging order applies. Colorado law says only remedy charging order. So he gets into court and the bankruptcy judge says, see all those assets over there? Go get them. Now, wait a minute. They're protected by the charging order.
Right.
Judge says, I don't care. Go get them. So Colorado lost.
I was going to say that got appealed, I'm guessing.
You now need at least 2 members, two owners of the LLC in Colorado to get charging order protection. The second case was in Florida. Mr. Olmsted, dirty dude, embezzles tens of millions of dollars from Floridians. Stick him in jail, and they say, okay, Mr. Olmsted, see all that tens of millions of dollars over there? They're in that LLC, give them back to us.
Right. We're going to take it.
We're going to redistribute it to the victim. And Mr. Olmsted, he's sitting in jail, and he sticks his tongue out and says, the only remedy in Florida law is a charging order. That means you get the profit. If I declare a profit and I'm sitting in jail, how often do you think I'm going to declare a profit?
Right.
So he told the Supreme Court justices in Florida to go pound sand. There's only one problem with that. There's a lot of sand in Florida.
This is true.
Supreme Court justices in Florida ain't interested in pounding sand. So they scratched their little noodles and they said, wait a minute.
There's got to be a way.
The purpose of a charging order is not to protect Joe. It's to protect Lee and Deb. Mr. Olmsted, screw you. You don't got any Lee and Deb. You're the only owner of this LLC.
Right.
Henceforth and forever in Florida, you got to have two members, two members to charging order protection.
Interesting.
And got about 20 states now that have gone to that. Utah and Idaho have actually passed laws. The Ninth Circuit, up and down the West Coast, California, all those fruitcakes. I mean,
Californians.
California. I hate California. They're weird. They have more laws than the rest of the country.
I know. And then everybody else ends up having to follow them because.
Any rate, you know, they all say two members. So you're charging your business in Colorado isn't going to give you the charging order protection because you've only got one.
It's just me.
It's just you.
Now, should it be someone other than, say, my spouse?
Could probably be your spouse. I'd have a kid maybe on there. Do 3.
Okay.
Give you 5%. You got to treat the kid like a real partner, real owner. I mean, got to be invited to the meetings and get his cut of profit and all that sort of stuff. But do you really need charging order protection? What's in your business, Deb?
Right. Yeah. Like you said, my business is virtual.
You don't have $100 million building sitting there in your business.
No.
You are the business.
It's intellectual property is basically what my business is.
They can't take your business. I mean, if they knock you out, so what? What'd they get? Nothing.
Right.
So you're not really worried about it. But if you own a house in the LLC, then you need the charging order protection. It'll prevent the domino effect that I saw in 2008, 9, 10, big real estate turn down. Remember that one? Well, what happens is this house goes bad. They give it back to the bank. Bank sells it. There's a deficiency. They come to the owner. This house is in an LLC. They come to the owner for the deficiency. Now, wait a minute. The corporate shield protected me from the deficiency in that company, in that company, right? No, it didn't. I'll guarantee you signed that mortgage personally.
Yep.
So they came to get you. Now, if you own a second house over here in your name, they just come and get the second house too. And I saw people lose 30 houses, just domino down.
Right.
If this second house is in an LLC, they can come to you, but they can't come and get this house. It's protected by the charging order.
Right.
So that stopped the domino effect, didn't it? So how you own your property, how you own business, and your business is property. How you own your property, your business, is a big deal, guys. You got to think it through. And the LLC is the only one that gives you the corporate shield, and the charging order protection.
Right. Right.
So I'm going to tell you, make your change, make it today.
Right. Well, and for people who are going, this is just too complicated, I'm not going to do it, then you do risk losing everything. I mean, if you've not set anything up and something happens, then yeah, I mean, it is your personal liability that's going to take the hit, right?
Yeah, obviously. So the other aspect is you get to choose how you're going to be taxed. And I'll cut to the chase on this one. If you're getting your money through passive income, that's rents.
Okay.
If you're a real estate dude, you're going to have it taxed as a partnership. If you're getting your money through the sale of goods and services, you're going to have it taxed as a subchapter S.
I got that one.
Are never going to have it taxed as a C corporation.
Right.
People come to me, I'm a professional speaker. I've given over 6,000 speeches. And they come to me and after the speech and they say, oh, I've already got my LLC. Good. How's it taxed? I don't know. Well, if
my accountant does that.
They're getting 25% of everything you bring in the door. Don't you think you ought to know how they're doing it?
Right.
So you're going to have it taxed as a subchapter S. And, you know, we started out and we said they're really beefing up the IRS. I've got a lot of IRS people in my office. I've even got the former head of the Western Division of the IRS in my office.
So they know the tricks.
They know the tricks. Here's the trick. Any one of the 120,000 IRS agents can audit a 1040 form. That means if you're operating as a sole proprietor, filing a 1040 with a Schedule C. If you're operating as a real estate investor, you're filing a 1040 with a Schedule E. If you set up the LLC and have it taxed as a partnership or a subchapter S, in order to audit a subchapter S, you have to have a degree in accounting and you have to have 3 years of training at the cost of over $1 million to the IRS. How many of those agents out of the 100?
Yeah, those people are going to get off to the side.
Less than 0.5%
right
of the agents in the IRS can audit the subchapter S.
Right. You know, and folks, we're not sharing anything that is not correct. I mean, you know, we're not, this is all legal. You know, we're not cheating anybody. I always tell people, you know, there are many things you can do, but do not try and cheat the IRS. Just ask Al Capone that, right? And so, yeah, I mean, you know, but the thing is, the government has set it up so you can do that. I mean, you know, and for the people who, you know, we always hear about the very wealthy who don't pay taxes.
IRS, we're not cheating the IRS.
No, not in any way. Because, you know, they have set it up for you to be, well, I shouldn't say they've set it up. You're just taking advantage of how it is set up.
Well, you are taking advantage of how it's set up. But let me tell you, you know, I teach a whole course on taxation. And your adjusted gross income is the number.
Right.
And anything that we call it the line. Anything above the line, above the AGI calculation, either adds to or subtracts from AGI. Anything below the line doesn't do anything.
Right.
Most of your tax planners play below the line. This is an accounting term. Line. They play below the line. I mean, your home interests, your medical expenses,
right?
All that's below the line. You can't do anything above the line, basically. The only thing you can do above the line is contribute to a standard, not a Roth, a standard IRA.
Okay.
That comes out above your that lowers your AGI calculation. There are two other things that come in above the line. One is your real estate investing, The other one is your little business. Your little business is the most important tax shelter you have, and no accountant has ever brought you in, put his arm around you and said, we really need to teach you how to use your little business tax shelter.
Right.
They've never done that. I have a free ebook thing, 10 tax tips. But these are important, guys. And you've got to learn to use your little business as a tax shelter. You ever
and again, it's legal to do this.
And have you ever had anybody point that out to your listeners, Deb?
Nope. Not in my 916 programs.
You mean I'm 900?
You're unique. Oh my gosh, Lee.
You don't even respect me.
You've got it. You're the one who's rocking it.
916.
I know.
Gee, that's incredible. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. But it's, I mean, one of the things is, that we are providing great information for people. And, and plus I just have so much fun talking with people, right? I'm so shy and, not.
You're just an introvert, I can tell.
I know. COVID was hard on me. When they said I couldn't go out, I'm like, oh, the cats couldn't talk back. And, but yeah, it's, and folks, there are so many things that as a business person, you need to be doing. And it's not that complicated. I mean, that's the thing about this is, it is not that difficult to do.
Well, the attorneys make it complicated. The accountants make it complicated to protect their profession.
Well, and we assume it's going to be complicated.
They want you to. If you break it down into plain English, all this legal crap is really easy. And, I teach people how to operate their LLCs. You've got to operate your LLC.
Right. You shouldn't just have the little piece of paper that's sitting somewhere, or maybe you get a pretty certificate with a gold seal on it. Yeah, it is much more than that. So,
yeah, we could go on for hours. How are we doing on time?
We've got about 12 minutes left, so we're doing good. We're doing good on time.
Good. The LLC is the tax shelter. The LLC gives you double asset protection.
Right. It's got that double wall.
A double wall. It's actually pretty cool. We can go into some tax stuff if you want.
Let's talk about, when you talk about using your LLC as a tax shelter, what are some of the things you should be doing?
Well, there are lots of things. Let me give you one of the 10. It's a cutesy little one. Okay. 280 AG. That's the IRS code, 280 AG. And it says you can rent your residence. If you rent a residence for no more than 14 days a year, you can't do 15, you can only do it 14. Any income that you receive is tax-free. And so what you do is you advertise in the paper that you're going on vacation for 2 weeks, that you want $4,000 a day for your residence. And you'll get a meth cooker who will pay you that. And it'll be great. It's all tax-free to you. No, that's not what you do.
No.
How do you make money with 280 AG? Well, instead of having your board meeting down at the Marriott and feeding the guys lunch, could you have your board meeting at your house and feed lunch? Figure out what the Marriott's going to charge.
Charge them the same thing. Charge your business the same thing.
You literally write out a bill, send it to your business. Your business pays that $1,500 or whatever it's going to be. And you hold the meeting at your house on the back patio, and you do the barbecue, and you charge your company $1,500. That lowers your AGI, your company's income, by $1,500,
right?
It enriches you by $1,500. Now, I happen to have a house on Siesta Key in Florida, on the beach.
Ooh.
And a house right near Sundance in Utah. I have colleagues. Deb, you're welcome to come. I'm going to charge you $2,000 a day when you come to Siesta Key. I have nice facilities for you, all set up for guests. Now, I happen to know you, Deb. You're too cheap.
I'm not going to pay $2,000.
No, you're not. You're going to pay the $2,000.
My company.
Not your company.
Your company.
My company.
Ah.
I spend 2 days with you sitting on the beach, Deb. I'm going to guarantee we're going to figure out a way to make more money. Won't
so
we?
We'll be doing business.
Yeah, we just happen to be
running at the beach.
Our toes. But my business will pay me to entertain you.
Right.
At my house on Siesta.
Now, can we only do that for 14, or can you only do that for 14 days a year?
Yep.
Okay. See, I'm getting this. I'm a little slow, but I'm getting it.
Even if you do, let's say we only do $500 rental per day. Can I meet with my real estate agent at my house and charge my real estate company?
Yep.
To host the real estate agent at the house and feed them lunch?
Yep.
Can I, so let's say it's only $500. That's still $7,000.
Right.
Took out of your company and moved it to your pocket tax-free.
Right. That seems like a good deal.
White, your accountant's going to say, yep, that's right, but you can't abuse it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So no 15 days, just 14.
Well, not 15 and not $45,000 a day.
Right. Yeah. It has to be reasonable.
The movie stars and stuff are abusing it. They're doing $1 million a day to have a scene from the movie shot in their house.
Yeah. Because if you had to rent a place to do it, they'd charge $1 million.
Well, probably not.
Yeah. But that's their justification.
You can't abuse it.
Right.
Okay. I won't abuse it. You want to know why this came about?
Why?
High Point, North Carolina, right by you. What are they doing in High Point, North Carolina?
I have no idea.
The Furniture Mart.
Ah, okay.
Historically, it was the Furniture Mart. High Point, North Carolina has one Motel 6. It's a little bigger than that.
Yeah.
But back in the day, how do you house 250,000 people who descend on High Point, North Carolina? The High Point, North Carolina congressman goes to Congress and says, look, let's get everybody to rent their house for 14 days during the Furniture Mart, and we'll give them the income tax free. Can you see?
I love it. Now, could they just rent part of the house? I mean, like, could you still be there, or do they have to get the whole house?
Oh, no, you can still be there. I'm there when you're at my house in Florida.
Okay, true. And it's like Airbnbs and VRBOs, things like that, where you're renting a room.
No, not really.
Oh.
I mean, I'm
well, no, because they're doing it for far more time, right?
And I'm doing it totally different. So I'm there with you. I'm going to charge my business the $1,500 or the $1,000. The door on the Hyatt down the street says $1,200.
Right.
They don't feed you. So I'm going to charge my business, but I'm going to be there, and I'm going to charge you another $300 a day just for putting up with me if I shut up.
True.
So I'm making extra money.
Yeah, you're getting a bonus out of this. Well, oh my gosh, Lee, this is it's fascinating. And
going on, your big ones are the retirement plans,
right?
4Ks, the SEPs, the SEEPs, the SAPs, whatever you want to call them, and the benefit plans, the HSAs, the HRAs, right. 05s. So, I mean, I can drain lots of money out of a company
legally.
100% legal, encouraged by the government.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing, folks. This is encouraged. Otherwise, it wouldn't be there.
I was reading the Secures Act 2.0 that was passed, and I know that's sick. But they'll even give a small business owner a tax credit for setting up a SEP or a 401k or whatever.
Interesting.
Under the new Secures Act 2.0. Yeah, they're encouraging it 199%.
Right.
They'll even pay for it.
I love it. Well, oh my gosh, Lee, we could obviously go on forever on this. And I think there's a lot of important things. So we should just have you on again to continue this conversation.
There you go.
Yeah, and it might be by the beach or it might be by the ski resort. I don't ski. I mean, I grew up outside of Steamboat Springs, but I do not ski. So Sundance, okay. But no, I like the beach. The beach is pretty cool. So before we do that, before we chat again, tell us more about how they find you and what is it that you do. You mentioned 6,000 speeches. Talk to us a little bit more about that.
I give speeches and I prepare educational materials for people. And if your folks want the LLC mini course, fine. Put a link up for them and they can
we'll have it in the show notes.
About 30 pages. It's free. You don't have to worry about it. I don't put you on mail lists. None of that stuff. I don't take clients. I love to give speeches because I like to travel around and give speeches. So if your organization has a speech that they need given, fine. Give me a shout.
Perfect. So how do they find you?
I am at Legalese. It's a pun on my name.
Yeah.
Lealees. Lee Phillips at legalese.com. And they can find the numbers to the office and all that crap. There.
It's all on the website.
But I'd love to give the speech at your big convention or whatever. But no, I've spent my life educating people on how to run their trusts and their corporations and their LLCs and save taxes and that sort of stuff. And I've made a good living.
Well, you got some pretty nice houses, it sounds like.
It's my claim to fame is I've helped over 1 million people and I've never had a complaint.
I love it.
Figuring out where you are and I'm coming after you.
That's it. Yeah, you're not going to be given the opportunity. Well, Lee, this really has been so interesting. I mean, it's been great fun, but it's also been very interesting.
Hope you learned something. You understand charging orders a little better?
A little bit. And I got the 2 walls down, right? I got that part figured out.
If none of your guests have ever talked about the 2 walls, you need.
Yep. So yeah, I love that. And I mean, the nice thing is I'm actually kind of set up right. What do you know? And as I mentioned, we would love to have you on again, but until then, are there any final thoughts, words of wisdom that you'd like to leave everyone with?
I think that the main take-home message is, one, if you have a corporation, you need to change it to an LLC. Your accountant, somebody may argue with you, but I'm going to say no. It needs to be an LLC. And the other take-home message, I think, is your little business is your tax shelter, guys. You learn to use it as a tax shelter, you put a lot more money in your pocket.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Crank any faster. But I can give you a 10 or 15% raise.
Ooh.
If I understand taxes.
I love it.
And your accountant and your lawyer are not taking care of you guys. You got to figure this out on your own. You don't have to do it on your own.
Right.
If you tell the accountant we're going to use 280 AG, they'll look at you and say, you're pretty smart.
How'd you get to know that?
And abuse it. But he'll never tell you about it. You've got to bring it up.
I love it. Well, like I said, this has been so interesting. And we just scratched the surface on this. And so we will definitely have you on again. But until then, I'm Deb Creer. I've been having a fascinating conversation with Lee Phillips, and everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.